Watch out, Blue Bloods. Make way for the New Bloods. DeLuna Coffee adds to their Blue Angels collection with their Fat Albert blend, a classic combination of Guatemalan and Brazilian beans. It is truly their roaster's choice. And hey, check it out. K-Cups of it, along with Voodoo and Red, White, and Brew, are buy one, get one free. So go check it out over at DeLunaCoffee.com.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up. Wake up.
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee, DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Man, I need to get back and explore that. I've been busy, Corey, back home. Nose of the grindstone, grinding, doing home improvement stuff. I feel like I'm in the minor leagues back at home with my ma, waiting for my house to close, and then I'll do all the stuff here, and I'll be seasoned and ready to go when I get back to Tallahassee. But I need some of that DeLuna coffee in my life. When are you going to start letting it back into your life, man? Be a coffee guy, Corey. Come on,
well,
be awesomer.
I live vicariously through Stephanie. She loves it. She had some, whenever that was, Tuesday morning. I smelled it. Smelled delicious when she got ready to go to work. So, yeah, I can't say it. She likes it, and she likes coffee more than anyone I know, and she's a big DeLuna fan. So that's better than me, who doesn't really have a history of coffee, saying how great it is, because you can't trust my word. How would I know? It's like eating one piece of pizza ever and say, this is the best pizza I've ever had. But Stephanie is a coffee connoisseur and loves DeLuna coffee.
K-Cups, or does she get is it pre-ground? What is she working with?
I don't know. I don't know which one she wrote. The roast she was using this morning, it could have been midnight shift. I'm not quite sure, Aslan. Okay. Does it matter?
No,
really?
I'll just let everybody know there's K-Cups. They'll however you want it ground. If you want it in a drip coffee maker, if you want it, for your French press or a pour-over. I'm Mr. Pour-Over now, but go ahead, check them out, DeLunaCoffee.com. Warchant.com remains your undoubted ultimate Seminoles sports source. Promo code's Warchant30. Thumbs up to everybody on YouTube. You folks on iTunes, 5-star rating, positive review would help out too, I would feel like. Probably. Renegade Express is up on there as well, so post your questions. I think we might get to one or two of them depending on how long we go with our story du jour, which I think is story of the day. Maybe in France. Yep. And this is a good one, Corey. This has to be probably, I would think, your most popular, your most highly trafficked, I don't know if it's a proper adjective, column that's not in football season, like during a championship run. I feel like this is resonating. It's got pages upon pages of replies on the tribal council, and the tweets have been going crazy. I'm being serious. I bet somebody in Greensboro is going to have this on their desk, or a link or two in their email when they wake up on Wednesday morning. But the ACC network is a very interesting yet perplexing property, and it kind of seems to crystallize the frustration and the alienation of Florida State in this conference right now.
Well, it's just when, Florida State fans, the 99% of them are football fans, and you live in SEC country. By that I mean you live around everybody on the east, west, north, and south of you. If you live in the South, they're all SEC fans, or many of them are, let's say. And they have a network that devotes, I would say, I don't know, Aslan, 90% of its flagship show, the Paul Feinbaum show, maybe 100%. I think he had a Kentucky Derby trainer on last week, and that was like the only non-football guest he had in the week leading up to the draft. Meanwhile, the ACC network, it's everything, seemingly everything but football, and it just doesn't make sense. I think the bigger overriding point is, why does your flagship station feel the need to inundate us with lacrosse, field hockey, soccer, baseball interviews, softball interviews, all of them, tennis, golf, everything but football, especially around the draft? When, if you weren't paying attention, and maybe the people at ACC Network weren't, the ACC had the second most players selected in the draft. They had like 40-something players selected. The SEC had the most. The ACC was second. That's kind of a feather in the cap. And yet the Monday after the Monday show after the NFL draft completed on Saturday, the Monday show, the ACC Network, the Packer and Durham show, which is Mark Packer, Wes Durham, who've been ACC broadcasters for decades. Their show was 3 lacrosse interviews. Legitimately, folks, I didn't believe it when I first saw it. 3 lacrosse interviews, and then Dallin Cuff, a friend of the show, a friend of Wake Up Warchant, who I believe he's a studio host, obviously, for the ACC Network, and I believe he was previewing the women's soccer matchups for this week.
For them. Yeah.
So, again, I'm not besmirching those sports. They have a place, quite obviously. There's hundreds of athletes, thousands of athletes in this country that play those sports in college. But what does your audience care more about? What does the audience in the United States care the most about? What brings more viewership, more listeners to your podcast? And all these shows are podcasts too. Is it NFL draft talk and college football talk, or lacrosse? And I just don't understand who's telling them that your flagship show should be flooded with Olympic sports. I don't know if lacrosse is an Olympic sport, but that's the moniker we use.
Non-revenue. I mean,
the non-revenue sports.
That way,
sure.
You know?
No, I mean, they don't make money. Exactly right. But why would the ACC, who's last time I checked, wants to make a healthy revenue? They're millions of dollars behind. They should do whatever they can to try to catch up or get in the same stadium with the SEC. And yet they're concentrating apparently so much on non-revenue sports. And it just struck you, right? It just struck me that day. And it was Ira's idea. I mean, you were listening, you were in the meeting when Ira brought it up. And then you and I both had like visceral reactions when he told us what the lineup was. Yeah. And then you go and look at who Feinbaum had on the week leading up to the draft. It was Nick Saban. It was Kirby Smart. It was Mel Kiper. In the ACC network in the lead up to the draft had the Louisville field hockey coach, a UNC lacrosse player. Apparently all of them on the roster get interviewed at some point on Packer and Durham. And there was no football interviews at all. Meanwhile, the number 1 player in the draft was from your conference. You can, and maybe you're like, okay, I don't want to. We talk to Dabo a lot. It's redundant, man. People will listen to Dabo. That is a show. That's an interview that you want to get, especially the day of the draft or the day after the draft when he had a kid drafted and Etienne was drafted, right? He was a first round pick, I think. Yep. Etienne, I never really the guy really good, really good Clemson running back,
touchdown maker.
Why wouldn't Dabo be somebody they would think to have the day after the draft? Like, they have his contact info. It's the ACC network. And Dabo has a vested interest in the ACC network growing. So does Mike Norvell. So does every football coach and football player in the conference, especially coaches. They should all be they should have a bat phone in their bathroom or in their bedroom. The ACC network wants you. Packer and Durham want you for 20 minutes. You have to do it. You have to do it. And it's just, it made no sense. It makes no sense in retrospect. That's the lineup they go with. That seems to be their model, their blueprint is let's do all the non-revenue sports. And look, it's cool. I'll admit it. When Matt Nelson was on there, Mark Krikorian's been on there. There is a place for that kind of stuff. But man, around the draft specifically, and around spring football specifically, why give so much time to sports that, frankly, very, 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 very few people care about? Like, care about enough to want to hear. Like, who wants to hear from the North Carolina lacrosse goalkeeper? Men's and women's, because they had them both on Monday. Who's dying to hear those interviews? Who are those interviews for?
Mom and dad, which feels so local prep sports coverage.
So
model.
Exactly. That's what it feels like. That's exactly what it feels like. We have to give equal time to these.
We covered Lincoln. We shot Lincoln High's baseball game. We got to go get Leon High's baseball game.
Yeah, and then you got to get NFC High. And that's what it feels like. And also, like, I remember being at the Democrat where you'd feel like, you have to cover periodically. You need to write a softball story. You need to write a whatever story, men's golf story, men's tennis story, like all that stuff. You write it and you just realize, okay, there's just not a big audience for that. And now when you're a local paper, you need to try to cover the community and cover all this. But when you're at Warchant, we're not covering a lot of men's tennis because we see the numbers. It's football. Almost, we try to do as much football as we can because we're smart and we're trying to make money, and that's what most people care about. Why then, with the ACC, when Jim Phillips was in Tallahassee last week, telling everyone, We understand that football is the breadwinner. Football is the moneymaker. We have to concentrate more and more on football. Why then, around the draft, do you have what essentially amounts to a video yearbook of let's talk to him, and her about their lacrosse matches coming up? Meanwhile, Trevor Lawrence can go be on ESPN, or pardon the interruption. Maybe Feinbaum got him. I don't know. But the ACC network just doesn't add up. It just doesn't make sense. If you're trying to make money, why then would you have so much non-revenue on your network when you're trying to make actual revenue?
And the people that are there worked at legitimate networks. Like, they've worked in Bristol. Like, they know what most of these stations, what ESPN runs, like why they focus so much on football year round. Why Get Up is just always football every single day, it seems like. I mean, is there even I just don't know if Greensboro just has more of a sort of domain over the programming than Bristol does, or at least maybe versus what Birmingham does for SEC Network. Although that just seems so compatible. I feel like there's nobody in Bristol that's watching SEC Networks like, no, it's not going to work. I just feel they probably like, all right, we trust Birmingham and the SEC Network offices to figure out what to put on their airwaves. And listen, man, you put on SEC Network at any given time, they're showing gymnastics. They're showing softball games too.
Yeah.
But to your point, it's the flagship. Like, Feinbaum is not hanging out talking to the tennis and the swimming coach, and ACC Network is putting their prime sort of slot. I mean, it's same as radio, television, like your morning wake up drive shows. Those are one of your highest drivers, and then your primetime stuff. And you're putting these sort of, cottage kitsch sports at the top of the show, like you're putting in the A block. It's crazy. And I don't know. I don't know what the theory is, but I would hope that with Jim Phillips now, I mean, at some point, I think June is it officially he takes over? Is he already officially taken over? I thought Swafford was still hanging through this academic year, but I would imagine
he might go through the academic year, so it's got to be close. I mean, he's the de facto commissioner now, so if he's not like actual Mr. Commissioner right now, it's very soon, and he's getting ducks in a row to figure this out. And look, I don't know what kind of ratings the ACC network would get, even if they did have Dabo and Norvell on every day. But they'd be better. It would make
listen.
They'd be better if they became football centric.
It would make they wanted all of us to call and demand our MTV, call and demand our SEC network. Well, if you put on Mike Norvell like once a week, if you had Inside Florida State Football, like some sort of, I mean, they do these things with every SEC program. They'll show you film room stuff with the head coach and a player and one of their analysts. If they put that stuff on ACC Network, I would be more likely to call Comcast or Xfinity, like, hey, give me the ACC Network already. But when I know that I'm missing out on non-revenue sports that I don't really have a lot of interest in, and the Florida State's not particularly doing all that well, and I'm not going to call them. I'm not going to demand it. I don't, because I don't need it. I don't necessarily want it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't feel like you're missing anything until maybe there's football games on, or maybe basketball games on in the winter, where you'd be like, okay, I'd love to have the ACC network so I could watch that. But otherwise, no, they're not. The whole goal of a network is to get people to watch it. That's the whole goal, and it just boggles the mind to think about what that edict must be, because I like Wes Durham. I've met him a couple times. He's a nice man, or he seemed like a nice man. I mean, I've only talked to him for maybe 20, 25 minutes total. He seemed like a nice man, and great. I love him as a play-by-play announcer. He's he's a Falcons announcer. I'm a Falcons fan. I love him. I think he's awesome as an announcer. I don't really know Mark Packer, but he seems like a well-liked person. They are not booking these shows. There's no way Wes Durham and Mark Packer, like, I'm not talking to Trevor Lawrence again. Yeah. Get me Jose Moreno, the goalie for North Carolina, like the lacrosse goalie. That's not happening. So who's doing it? Why would they treat why would they treat this as like they treat that show like they treat the rest of the network, which is, okay, we got to get some Louisville programming in. We got to get some Boston College programming in. We got to get field hockey in. We got to get lacrosse. We got to get soccer. We got to take care of all these entities. But that show in particular, you don't. Paul Feinbaum has never uttered the word lacrosse in his life. They do not care about it. They do not care about field hockey.
He's never said Vanderbilt tennis coach, He's never said those words.
Think about how absurd it would be for you guys that know Feinbaum, like the show. Hopefully not many of you listen to that, but maybe you do. I shouldn't judge. But think about how absurd it would be to hear Feinbaum go And then later on today, we have the Vanderbilt tennis coach getting ready for a big match this weekend against Kentucky. The day after the NFL draft. It's preposterous to think about. It's just, and again, like I said, leading up to the draft, the SEC Network had Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Mel Kiper, the NFL CIO, which is what, the chief something officer.
Information?
The IB. And there you go, chief information. I was going to say investigative, but that's probably not, they don't probably have one of those. So in like 8 or 9 other football, Bruce Feldman, Andy Staples,
Danny
like
Werfel
college football, but Danny Werfel, football people leading up to the draft. In the ACC network, which has long been thought of as not necessarily anti-football, but Florida State fans have always wondered how important football is to the ACC. We all know how important it is now because of the money that everybody's making, and the vast, vast sums of money in every conference come from football. But then it's hard to convince us that you really do care about football, that's in your blood now. It's in your DNA if your flagship show continues to interview people like that and not people like Dabo, Etienne, Janarius Robinson, people that actually got drafted. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you devote a lot more time to just football in general, but especially around the draft? It's just what does that do for ratings?
I guarantee you Feinbaum, like if Florida State was in the SEC, I bet you Feinbaum would talk about Marvin Wilson and Tamorrion Terry not getting drafted. Like that's just how over the
he would want to have Ira on.
Yeah.
Sure, he'd have Ira on or he'd have Norvell on to talk about the Florida State draft. If it was something like that, like 2 guys that came back and then didn't get drafted, that would be an important enough story on the SEC network for them to actually talk about it. But on the ACC network, it's
not even on the radar.
And I keep bringing up lacrosse, but it's the truth. It's just the truth. I listed all the shows they had the week leading up to the draft, and again, I'm not lying. It was the Clemson golf coach. It was the
granted, they did win the
ACC
they did win the ACC championship, but still, Clemson.
But who so that's my point. Like, do you have to have him on? Like, if Krikorian wins the national championship, by all means, have him on. I think Krikorian's interesting anyway because they had to take 6 months off between playing. That's an interesting story. But are you just trying to pat everyone's back and say we're all in this together? You rub their like, okay, we got 10 minutes for you. Come on and have fun. Or are you trying to make money? Like, you can't have it both ways, man. It's not a yearbook where everybody gets their own page. That's the comparison I made in the column. But not every sport gets equal billing or should. Not every sport should get its own page, especially on your flagship show when you're trying to drive up ratings and when you're trying to get people to download a podcast and when you're trying to get people to watch your show. Give them something they want to watch. And now I know there are some lacrosse fans out there, North Carolina lacrosse fans specifically, that loved Monday's show. They had to be doing Are you kidding me? We get both goalkeepers, men's and women's. Are you crazy? And the Notre Dame midfielder. This is awesome. You could count those people in the dozens, maybe. Might be 9 people that were excited about that interview slate. And what are we doing with a show if we're interviewing people that nobody is clamoring to hear from? Why are we doing it? It's to make everybody feel good, treating it, like you said, like prep sports. Like we're all in. And at some point, the ACC needs to realize the SEC's business model works. It's all football on their flagship show. That is all Paul Feinbaum cares about, unless a basketball team's making a run in the tournament. That's all he cares about. Or Mulkey. When Mulkey got hired at LSU, he had a couple different segments on that, which makes sense because she's a polarizing figure and a great women's basketball coach, even as weird as she might be. That's a very interesting subject matter. But he is not interviewing the Kentucky field hockey coach ever, because they care about people listening to their show. And I don't know what the ACC network is trying to do.
And here's the thing. So can all this be true? Can I totally agree with you? Because I do. Can I also be as curious as you are about who's making these decisions? But then ultimately sort of realize that we're the problem, kind of. And I'm part of you folks. I went to the same school as you all did. I'm part of it. We're the problem. I kind of think about the bar situation in Florida State. Like when I was in school, there was a bar called Ken's. Okay, Corey, there's a bar called Ken's.
Ken's Tavern, yep.
Correct.
Yep.
I think it's still running. I think it's still sustained. One of the few ones that's actually been the same place on Tennessee Street. It wasn't my cup of tea, man. It was, it was for, I think, people that were more like driving trucks and hunting, which those are their hobbies. Cool. I don't have that hobby. I wouldn't go there, though. I wouldn't go to Ken's. It's not my scene. I didn't see the need to bash Ken's or make fun of it or try to shut it down. Florida State fans, we care about football, but in the ACC network and the ACC at large, like if you live in the foothills of the Shenandoah Mountains in Virginia, you might not care. You probably don't care about football the way we do in Tallahassee.
But do you care about lacrosse?
Maybe you're a Virginia fan. You think you look at the holistic part of student athlete. I'm just saying, like I think the people in Virginia and North Carolina, I really do. I think they're not to a certain degree where you can explain this away and get away with doing this for the next 4 or 5 years. I mean, you've been around now for 2 years. Now it's time to figure out what's worked and what's not worked and change your
3 years. They're coming up on 3 years.
Yeah, now it's time to change the course. But like, we don't belong in this conference. And the thing that sucks is like we have no recourse. We can't do anything. We've signed the grant of rights for however long. Gene's been writing about that since the ink was not even dry on the paper with Eric Barron signing that. And that's the thing. It's like I think some Wake Forest fans, like they don't want to hear from Trevor Lawrence. They don't care because they know they're never going to win a football national title. NC State fan knows they're never going to win football national title. Run through all these programs that know they're never going to win football national title. So they're cool with listening to some of this other stuff. But again, it comes full circle to your point about it's a network. This is a money-making capitalistic venture, and there's no way this model is going to grow this network to put everybody on a level playing field. So, but then again, it comes back to then they don't care. They're whatever. Let football die out because we know we're never going to win at it, and then we'll take pride in having a good lacrosse program or a good women's swimming program. But Florida State fans, we're not built that way. Like, we're not at home here. We've never been at home here. They've let us be in their conference. We needed them. They needed us. We did a lot of good for them. You've mentioned it, that the 90s, Florida State bankrolled this entire conference practically, and it was kind of, a relationship by necessity. And now it's, and the crazy thing is we're bringing stuff to the table. We're do good in all these non-revenue sports. We have a good beach volleyball team. We have a good softball team. We have a good women's soccer team. But people just don't. It's not very compelling programming. I just wish that we can get this. This just proves more than anything the divorce needs to happen. Like Florida State needs to figure out a way to get out of this conference. Make a new conference.
Not how. I don't know. Yeah, make a new conference. Maybe they'll have like 4 super conferences or one big super conference and not even do that. Who knows? But like, look, man, they aren't getting out of this conference, not anytime soon, and they need the ACC network to succeed. They need to make money. It needs to be a money-making venture, and it was really important when they started it. When they finally started it, and then again, you think about Florida State fans. They're told all summer of whenever that was, 2018, call Comcast, call Xfinity, demand the ACC network. We're 3 years later, man. We are 2.5 years, however long it's been. They've given up. They know they're not going to. We still in Tallahassee do not have the ACC network. One of your, not a charter school, but one of your biggest money-making schools, the city it's in does not have your network, and you do not seem to care at all about it, at all. So that's number one. And then number two, you know how important football is, and yet you continue to want to give equal time to other sports that just don't drive the revenue. Whether there are some people in the foothills that want to listen to by the way, I looked it up. It's Taylor Moreno. I apologize, Taylor. That's the UNC lacrosse goalkeeper. And by the way, to your point, so I told you this, I think on the video, that they played a snippet, like a minute snippet. The ACC network played a snippet of that interview on its feed, on its Twitter feed. It right now, a day and a half later, has 1,800 views. 1,800 total. The video of my son hitting a home run from Sunday has 11,000 views. Like that should tell everybody at the ACC network. Brady Clark, sure. Everybody say his name. So that should tell everybody at the ACC network, okay, well this interview wasn't a big hit. And so I guess I don't quite. I feel like it's got to be a change of mindset. And maybe it will be. Maybe starting in August.
They're not going to go
all
under.
The time football.
The ACC network's not going to go under. So they don't feel the market pressure that we do of we need to give our consumers what they want. They don't feel that pressure where it's we can do all this stuff and get away with it. But hopefully Jim Phillips changes the market pressure on them. It's no, I'm going to look at ratings. We're going to look at growing ad revenue on this thing. Like, this needs to be a money-making thing. I just think right now it's not, because it's the whole yearbook, everybody gets a trophy sort of mentality. Like, there's no pressure on them to make this thing profitable.
And growing the sport within your conference. Like, I know maybe Wake Forest fans don't want to hear from Trevor Lawrence all the time, but they had a couple kids drafted too, the defensive end. He could be on there. And Florida State fans and Clemson fans might watch that interview. But they are not going to watch lacrosse interviews, by and large. Football fans are not. And you're trying to, most people in this country, weirdly, are football fans. They just are. It's the most popular sport in the country, followed by basketball. It seems like you would, especially viewership-wise, it seems like those are where you would attack. And you don't have to give everybody equal time on your flagship show. That's all. Because the SEC doesn't, and the SEC, the SEC network on Twitter has 1 million followers. 1 million. The ACC network has 70,000. That quick math tells me that's 930,000 person difference. So how does that relate to viewership? I have to imagine, hey, well, Tallahassee, I guarantee you more people are watching the SEC network. But around the country, again, it's one is all the time. The second most popular sport in the country, which is college football. They devote almost all of their time to it on their show, on their flagship show. The ACC network, again, votes, 20%, 10%. Just bizarre, especially, again, the day of the draft. But it's been like this for a while, man. And it's so frustrating that, again, we're in Tallahassee and you don't get the channel. And Ira can't watch college baseball games anymore unless he goes to them, because we're not even allowed to get it on one of the streaming services if we have cable. Like, we can't even get ESPN Plus. It's blacked out in our area. It's just nonsense, and they don't care. So that's where we are with the ACC network. It's all right, though. I'm over it.
Corey wrote a column. We did a video, and now we just did 25 minutes of a podcast about it. So, and we don't really have a lot of solutions to you, everybody. But again, I'm waiting for the day Florida State and Clemson leave in the dark of the night, take Texas and Oklahoma with them, invite Memphis, a couple of the private schools in Texas, come on SMU, come on Baylor, get Tulane, just so Corey and I have a reason to go visit New Orleans every other year on the rotational basis. I think we'll bring Miami with us too. Miami wants to get out of this conference, and then we're gonna get a 14-team conference, and it's all gonna work out. You watch, you wait, it's gonna happen. It's gotta happen.
And then you and I are gonna run the network.
Yeah. Well, we're not.
And it's
we're not
gonna be
on
all
ACC
lacrosse
now, for sure.
It's gonna be all lacrosse all the time.
It's funny when I took
every starter.
When I took this job, I was like, I'll be covering Florida State in Tallahassee. It might make me marketable to ACC Network someday down the line. But nope, not any longer. Thanks, Corey. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's not happening. Oh, yeah, that's right. I kind of ruined your chances there.
I got to talk to Dallin, make sure we're still friends. It's probably like, dude, what's with you guys taking shots at me? Like, not you, man.
No, I didn't take shots. We didn't take shots at him. And there's no way that West Durham enjoys West Durham would love to talk football too. I'm sure it's nice every now and again to talk to a different a person in a different sport. Like, I really enjoyed talking to Matt Nelson and people like that. And I would love to have Lonnie on to talk about the softball team and the how different they're winning games this year. But by and large, West Durham would also like to talk football. He just doesn't want to be inundated with lacrosse. Like, literally 3 in a row. I can't imagine that production meeting. He's like, wait, what? We got 3 lacrosse interviews lined up? Awesome.
I wonder if he's got a burner account. He's got a burner account that liked your tweet, and it's probably like, "Amen, brother."
Yeah, probably.
It's like, tell him.
Probably so.
Tell him about it. All right, let's grab a question or two out of the mailbag. We'll get to the rest of them later on this week. It is the Renegade Express. Pointing out the fact that the Diamond is going to feature a duel involving Meat and Link. 2 FSU baseball alums turned skippers for 2 ACC programs, one which is number 2 in the nation right now. Who's coming into this one with more to prove? What do you think, Corey?
Oh, well, definitely. Well, that's interesting, but yeah, I mean, I think Link's proven himself, right? They're number 2 in the country at Notre Dame. I don't think winning or losing this series necessarily means, Meat's got his number. The people that think that they should have hired Link, and maybe that's even Link, whatever happens this weekend won't be enough for that to be turned down. The guy has them number 2 in the country. They're 21-9 in the ACC. It's been remarkable. 2 years ago, or whatever it was, 3 years ago, they were not good. and now they're 21-9. They're going to host. I wonder if they've ever hosted a super regional, but they're in line to host. If they bid for it, I assume they bid for it. They could host a super regional for one of the few times in history if they've ever done it at all. And it's just been a pretty remarkable turnaround for them. It's early. Again, we'll see what it looks. There's been a lot of guys that come in and have immediate success, and then 2 or 3 years later, maybe once they're recruiting their own guys and it doesn't go as well. But, man, you cannot argue with the results right now for Link. And so I would say Meat has a lot more to prove because he's still trying to make sure they even get in the tournament. Like, they're not a guarantee to even be in the tournament. So they need to go up there and play well and maybe win 2 out of 3. And that would you would think that would almost cement them in there. But, who knows? The RPI is really – Fairfield is like number 2 in the RPI in the country in baseball.
How does that even work?
Fairfield. Who knows, man? It's goofy. Like Vanderbilt's 1 and Fairfield's 2. Or something like that. Arkansas is 1, Fairfield's 2, Vanderbilt's 3. It's like, okay, that your formula's a little off maybe. So hopefully I don't think they're going to use the RPI as much as they normally would because so many leagues play different types of schedules.
I'm telling you, man, taking a team like Ole Miss, they're kind of getting, Mike Bianco's been there for 13 years, maybe even longer than that now, and they've kind of maxed out with him. They've had some real good teams that haven't made it to Omaha. They've made it to Omaha only once. It's the first time in a long time. I'm telling you, these SEC teams, like baseball's a big deal. I could see like Link getting a look from a team like Ole Miss if they were like, Mike Bianco, it's not happening with him. If Link Jarrett takes Notre Dame to hosting a super, and that's what LSU did. They got Paul Maneri. Paul Maneri came in here, knocked off the best team in Florida State history in 2002, a 60-win team. Yeah. So, but hey. We got Meat. It's going to work out. I'm keep the faith. I'm like Billy Joel here. Yay!
Yeah, it's early. It's early on with both of them. But yeah, so far the results favor Link because it's not what Notre Dame does in baseball. So good for him.
I actually do watch a good amount of college baseball. You watch more baseball than I do, and this is total hindsight. But what might have got lost in this when Levin was going to step down and listen, it's a foregone conclusion. We've talked about ad nauseum. It's just there's no way anybody besides Meat was going to get the job. You got a lot of you don't agree with that. I think it's a good amount of you realize the forces in play that made this the reality that it was. But, did we enjoy watching Florida State baseball the last 8 years or so when it seemed like Meat kind of was a little bit more assertive or had a little bit more involvement in whether it was recruiting players or establishing the style of play? I don't know how UNC Greensboro looked, but I think that's one thing that kind of got lost in the shuffle where it was like, yeah, man, I'll take him over Link Jarrett. I'll take him over, who else? What was the guy? Who was the guy that had the funny name? Sal Bando's brother or whatever. I'm like, I'll take all, because I don't think anybody's going to really play a more exciting brand of baseball. And I just wonder because what we're watching right now, this is, they've always tried to be selective at the plate and, have the big inning. It's not happening as much. But I haven't watched Notre Dame to see how they look, but they're winning games. That's what's important.
And they make no errors. They've made, like I said, they've made like 16 errors on the season. Notre Dame has, which is a good way to win games. They put the ball in play and they don't make a lot of errors. That's a nice recipe apparently for success.
Gotcha. All right, then the other question I put in the Rennie Expresso was anybody taking their children to a Norvell camp and willing to run intel for us? Enter Mad AMCZ, aka Mark. Wake up! I'm taking my 11-year-old to the Norvell camp May 20th. Happy to run intel for my boys at Wake Up Warchant and provide a report. So there you go, Mark. You just said it. We said it. It's happening. Okay, Corey, good. I'm sorry that the Atlanta Falcons took Kyle Pitts from Florida and my Bucks took Kyle Trask. It is what it is. To my question. I had a sombering moment the other day, and I posted a thread about the 2021 schedule and how hard it is. I did see this thread, I think, and I was like, what happened to Mark? You guys know I'm Mr. Optimism, but man, if we get to 7 wins and play our rivals more competitively, it's a big turnaround in 2021. Can't believe I'm even saying that. I mean, 3 wins, though, Mark. I mean, you are Mr. Optimism, but, just you can never go right now with Florida State and say you're expecting a 10-win season. Only 2 losses. They can only have 2 bad games. They can only have 2 games where the breaks get the best of them. That's all they're allowed? No way. I can't even imagine. Like, can you imagine just looking at a schedule right now and being like, I feel good about 10 of these games? That's, a legitimate ACC. I mean, I'm not saying about putting FCS teams and all these non-conference. But if you look at a conference schedule and you still have, obviously, Florida as one of your rivals, Clemson and Miami are permanent rivals within the conference. Can you just imagine right now just looking at it, 10, we're good?
Yeah, no, of course not. I mean, what are they, 9-13 in their last 22 games? Like they're
since
not
I got
even a
here. What are they
team
since
right
Taggart? 5-7, 6-7. That's 11 and 14.
So 11 and 14,
and 3 and
then
6.
6 and 7 again, right?
Well, no, I'm talking about since
So
I
he
had
had
Taggart. Taggart was 5-7, 6-7, and then Norvell showed up and went 3 and 6.
So 14 and 20.
That's what
Yeah,
That's what I've been here for, everybody. As long as you're so negative, I hate listening to you. You're such a hater. You're so negative. That's what's been here since I've arrived.
Yeah, it's like they've won 40% of their games, give or take, 41%. So if they can get to a point where they're winning 65% of the games, yes, that's a significant jump. And that's what is that, a 7-5 season, 8-4 type season? 8-4 is 67%. So yeah, 7-5 is about a 60. That's a big jump, especially for a program that just doesn't win a lot. You don't go into Saturdays thinking they're going to win a lot. It's not even a 50-50 proposition at this point. It's 40-60 that they're going to lose. So yeah, it's just when you really break it down and you go, man, we're just hoping against hope that it's a turnaround and to get to 7 wins. And you're a Florida State fan, you're a proud fan. You have a lot of pride in the tradition of this school and all the championships and everything. It's tough to hear yourself say that, but it's the reality, right? Like, this is where the program is. It's where the program is. And so getting to 7 wins is a really nice step. And look, I know Jimbo's first season they had 10 wins. They had 4 losses and almost had a couple more. They also almost won a couple more games. That was about what they should have been. I also think they were in a better place even then, in 9 and 10, than they were now, than they were in 18-19. I just think they were. And so Jimbo knew the problems and could address them quickly. They couldn't all be addressed. The defense was really bad. But he went and got himself a really good coordinator. That was a very good hire. And that guy turned it around, not immediately, but it got immediately better. It wasn't immediately great, but it got better. It got competent. We don't know about this defensive coordinator. We don't know if he can make this thing competent. We saw one season, one pandemic season, and it was not a competent defense. If they can become competent again and look competent and take a step into an 8-4 team, an 8-4 season, man, I think that's something that Florida State fans would all be excited about. You're not going to be excited about those losses in the moment. You're going to be upset that Saturday night and that Sunday. But at the end of the season, the totality of the season, you look back and say, man, 8 wins, that ain't bad. I think you'll take that. I think everybody will be excited about that.
I'm just trying to wrap my head around Joshua Kaindoh and Janoris Robinson not having, produced at maybe what we would expect to be like NFL caliber or fulfilling sort of their vast physical potential with their measurables and stuff. They're gone. Hamsa's gone. Asante's gone. And, when we're in October, like, what are we going to be asking Adam Fuller? Like, when we're talking about a team that's, 5-2 or something. Like, how could they possibly be better with these guys being gone? Like, what is Derek McClendon going to do that Janoris Robinson wasn't doing? Jermaine Johnson, I think we all know he's probably going to be able to get to the quarterback more effectively than Kaindoh and J-Rob.
Who wouldn't be able to get to the quarterback more effectively than Kaindoh?
Be nice.
I'm just going 0 sacks.
Yeah. And so I guess we'll probably be celebrating the fact that they're doing better, but I wonder how much of it's going to be like, well, how come you didn't try to give these guys more of an option beforehand? They
had 4th-round picks, man. What's he going to do? Tell 2 NFL defensive ends not to play? Those guys are in the league, my man. Those guys in the league, he's got to play them. Look, the defense should be better because, last year was just such a wreck.
Why?
And because
they lost their best cover corner. They lost 2 NFL defensive ends, and
come on. Again, your defensive ends, if they stay healthy.
What's McClendon gonna do? Like, I understand Jermaine Johnson. Like, Jermaine Johnson, I will.
Well, that's a big one. You can't just dismiss that. Jermaine Johnson is a big deal. If he's healthy, if he stays healthy, you have essentially another Brian Burns. So once out of every 14 dropbacks, the quarterback will actually be breathed upon and feel pressure. And there's zero chance your interior line can be worse than it was last year. Marvin Wilson either just decided not to play or was playing on one leg or was out of whatever it was. He and Durden were non-existent. They were non-existent. Kendo had 50 tackles in his career. He had 0 sacks. So your defensive line should be able to produce more pressure because they're different players. I don't know why. I don't know why Durden was bad last year, but he was. So that's not a real loss. And Marvin Wilson isn't a real loss. And I definitely don't think Josh Kendo was a loss. He was nice at setting an edge in the running game, but they needed a defensive end that could come off the edge and rush a passer, and they didn't have it. So I also think the secondary as a whole will be better if it stays healthy. Hampsa, it would have really helped if Hampsa played last year, but he just didn't. That would have helped. So you're not even losing him because he didn't play.
Yeah.
I do think think that some of these young guys can play. Asante's a loss for sure.
Really good cover.
Asante's a loss, but if you get more pressure on the quarterback, that will make it easier for these corners that struggled a little bit, right? Like they don't have to cover guys for 5 seconds because they can't do it. Not many in the world can. Certainly not the guys that were on the roster last year could. So if you're getting more pressure on the quarterback, maybe they're a little more ingrained in the system. They understand more what Adam Fuller's doing. You can't tell me honestly you think they're going to be 109th again. Like even if they're 91st, it's better, right? Even if they're 84th, it's not good enough, and it would probably mean that he loses his job. Fuller, I'm talking about. Yeah. But it would be better. The defense, it just has to be better. It just has to be.
I didn't think
hopefully
they'd be
they can stay
last
injury-free.
year. There's no way they're going to be 3-6. There's no way they could be worse than they were last year. 2019. There's no way they could be worse.
Yeah. Well, I don't do that. I'm trying not to do that anymore. But I also think, look, man, I think Keir Thomas and the other guys, Jamie Robinson, I think those guys matter. I do. I think they're going to help the defense. They played a lot of big-time football in a big-time conference that actually talks about football on their network. Like what are they going to do when they see the ACC network? Like, it's Monday. Can't wait to see what's on Packer and Durham. Going to get some college football highlights from the week before? Oh, no. It's
Wake Forest scrimmage and basketball.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I do think those transfers, I think those two that I just named specifically, obviously with Johnson, those are going to be big. I think they're going to be big-time contributors and can make this a below par, subpar, maybe average defense as opposed to a national embarrassment.
I like what they have on the interior, that there's not a lot of it, though. I just wonder how that's going to hold up in October and November if somebody goes.
Agreed.
Even if somebody doesn't go down, Robert Cooper's not going to feel nearly as fresh, in November as he's going to feel against Notre Dame. Now, that said, Mark ends with, big opportunity is Notre Dame. That team starts a new quarterback, grad transfer from Wisconsin. Sound familiar? And they lost a lot of guys from last season. Getting them game one at Doak is huge. They will have no meaningful film on this team with all the new faces. Throw in a creative game plan with Milton and Travis both playing. We have a pass rush again. Okay, my optimism has come back as I type this. Beat Notre Dame 1 week at a time. Go Noles!
There you go.
There we go.
Continue to climb. It's a big game, man. We only got, 4 more months to talk about it. But, yeah, that's a really big game. Even if you don't win, which you need, it'd be great if you won. If you play competitively and you show some life that you didn't show in many of your losses last year, most of your losses, maybe all of them. Were they blown out for every loss? Oh, besides the Georgia Tech one.
Yeah, I think so. You could say
they were all blowouts. They were all over by the fourth quarter. That's a step. It's not a great step. Trust me. I know you guys didn't want to become fans of a team that just wanted moral victories. Like Bobby Bowden said, it's like a 6-foot man drowning in 3 feet of water. He's still dead. That's what moral victories are. So I know this isn't a moral victory show. It's not a moral victory program. But, that's also kind of where this thing is right now. So if they could do that, that would, to me, would be a nice step that maybe slowly they're getting this thing back.
120.
Just don't get blown out. How much is it? 120 what?
123.
Oh, boy. Lee, that's still a third of the year. Almost right at exactly 1/3 of a year, a calendar year. That seems like sometimes it feels like it's coming on. It's really quick,
right?
And then you tell me 123 days, and I realize that's 4 months. Oh, geez, that's not fun. That's not fun at all.
We'll probably talk about football for 75 more shows, so buckle up, everybody.
Probably.
What are you doing for Cinco de Mayo, Corey? You let your hair down?
Don't
Margaritas
know,
in
buddy. Probably not. I'm not a big tequila guy. My dad was a huge tequila guy. R.I.P.
Pioneer.
Yeah, he was. He would get. I didn't even know they made like expensive, like top shelf tequila.
Oh yeah.
But they do, and he tried it all. And every time I'd be like, okay, well, this is going to taste better than Cuervo, and I could never tell. I couldn't tell a difference. It's just all makes you make that face. I've never had tequila where it didn't make me make that face. So anyway, if any of you guys are drinking out there for Cinco de Mayo and celebrating, be safe, be responsible, and tilt one up to old John Clark. This was one of his favorite. It's not a holiday, is it? We don't call Cinco de Mayo holiday, is it? It's not a national holiday. People still have to work. Yeah. But yes, celebrate the holiday responsibly, but also tip one up to John Clark.
There we go. All right, that's a wrap for the program. We'll be back Friday, most likely, with the remainder of the Renegade Express questions. So we do look forward to hanging out with you all then. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. This has been Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Warchant.com is the ultimate inside source for FSU football and recruiting. And now you can get in on the action for free for an entire month. Warchant.com is offering a risk-free 30-day trial subscription. Get full access to the #1 website covering the Seminoles just by entering the promo code WARCHANT30. That's WARCHANT30. Sign up and get in on the world's most active FSU message boards. Receive breaking news, stories from our award-winning staff, plus get exclusive interviews and videos. Just enter the promo code WARCHANT30. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source.